Hi, biology students. I'm going to try something for this lesson, which is a little different, and I hope it works, which is I'm going to show you slides on my iPad while I explain with me in the video. And the reason why that I need to be in the video will become obvious in a minute. So if it's hard to see the slides that I show on my iPad, they're also on Schoology in a separate file so that you can look at them um, whenever you need to. So we are starting a brand new unit, and it is called genetics. The big question is, how do you look the way you look? Today, you're going to look at 9 simple genetic traits. They're simple because there's only 2 choices. You'll either be dominant or recessive for the trait. Other traits that you can think of that you have, that you inherit, that you get from your parents are more complicated. There's many genes or many pieces of DNA involved, like your color of your skin, color of your hair, how tall you are. Those are not traits that we'll look at because they're just more complex. So all you have to do as you look through these slides is decide, look at yourself or have somebody look at you and decide, are you dominant or are you recessive? So that's what you need to do. Once you've decided that for the 9 traits or figured that out, then you're going to go on the Schoology in the Lesson 1 folder and fill out the Google spreadsheet saying you're dominant or recessive. You are going to then just notice something. Once you fill out that Google spreadsheet, you can look at your data and the whole classes or all my classes data. So how many traits were you dominant for? How many were you recessive for? And I know I haven't taught you what those words mean yet, and one is not good or bad. You are dominant and recessive for many traits. So it's not good or bad. It just looks different. And then how about your classmates? Were most of them dominant for certain traits or recessive? And then last, you'll just tell me any questions you have or wonderings or curiosities. So that's your assignment for today. So let's look at the 9 traits. Okay, sorry. The first trait is, can you roll your tongue? It's dominant if you can and recessive if you can't. So I can. So on that Google spreadsheet, I would click dominant. If you can't roll your tongue, then you will click recessive. Next is widow's peak. You are dominant if you have it and recessive if you don't. This Kardashian, I can't remember what her name is, has a widow's peak. So it doesn't have to be a really sharp point. It just has to not, your hairline, if you're recessive, is not pointed at all. So some of you guys actually shave that when you get a haircut, but let's be honest, nobody's getting haircuts right now. So what you'll do is just pull your hair back like that, and you can see I don't have any point, so I would click recessive. So just check out what you have. Third is dimples. It is dominant if you have 2 dimples, one on each side. So when you have to smile to figure this one out and determine if you have dimples. Dominant, yes. Recessive, no. I have a dimple right here, but spoiler alert, it's because I got bit by a dog when I was 2. So that doesn't count. I wasn't born with it, so it's not a dominant trait for me. I'm recessive. Next is cleft chin, the booty chin. So if you have it, it's dominant. So some of you might have a lot of people in your family that have a cleft chin, and if you don't, it's recessive. So I don't have one, so I have the recessive. Earlobes. So some people's earlobes are what we call unattached, or they're free hanging. And then some people's earlobes, the lobe goes right up to their jaw. So I have the dominant, I have the unattached. You can see my earlobe hangs freely, going the wrong way here, like this. So if you have attached, you wouldn't have this separation. This one is a tricky one for people to figure out, so it is mid-digital finger hair. It's dominant if you have hair on your mid-digit and recessive if you don't. So the mid-digit is you have the part of your finger that has the nail, and the very bottom part, which most everybody has hair here, but that middle part between where the nail is and the bottom is what we're looking at. And even if you have just one finger with hair, it's dominant. If you have all four of your fingers don't have it, it's recessive. So I am dominant. I have hair on that, and you won't be able to see in this video. But what I do is like make the letter E in sign language, and then you look at the top. So right up here, I'm not looking down here because there's hair here pretty much for everybody, but this part right here. And I don't have hair on every single one of my fingers, but I do on a couple, so dominant. Bent little finger. So the person that's dominant, you can see their little fingers, their pinkies, bend away from each other when they are put side by side, and the recessive, the pinkies do not bend away from each other. So my pinkies, I call them dominant because they really don't bend. Dominant. Oh, I misspoke. I call them recessive because they don't bend. So most people's pinkies, most of you will click recessive. Okay. Interlocking fingers. If your left thumb, when you fold your hands, if your left thumb is on the top, it's dominant. And if your right thumb is on the top, it's recessive. Just naturally, you know, obviously you can put either thumb on top, but whatever feels comfortable, that's the dominant. So I'll show you what to do here. So just take your two hands and clasp them together like this, and notice which thumb just feels comfortably on top. I can switch it, but it doesn't feel as good. My left thumb's on top, so I would be dominant. So how about you? And last, it is dominant not to have a hitchhiker's thumb. So the person with the straight thumb, dominant. But some of you, when you put your thumb up, it really hooks. It makes a big like shape like this, or like Adele's thumb. Check that out. Super, super hitchhikery. Then you would check recessive. I do not have a hitchhiker's thumb, so I would be dominant. But I can make this thumb into hitchhikers, but it doesn't count because it's a double jointed thumb. Naturally, my thumbs are dominant, no hitchhiker's thumb. Okay, so now you are going to go to the Google spreadsheet that says genetics trait data, and you're going to fill it out. And it looks like this. So there will be 9 questions. all you have to do is click if you're dominant or recessive. If you're not sure, watch this video and watch me explaining to you what's dominant and what's recessive, or just look through the slides. So this is what the Google form looks like. And then here's what's important to do. When you're done, when you have submitted your response to your 9 genetics traits, what I want you to do is click See Previous Responses at the top. And then what you'll see will be data for every biology student that's done it so far. So far, only 3 people have. It's basically just my family. So there'll be more when you do it, or you can just look at my families and take a look. How many people were dominant? How many people were recessive? And you're just going to make some noticings. Just what do you notice about them? Okay. So then you'll do a Google discussion answering that. How do you notice? How many? Give us some information. How many traits were you dominant for or recessive? And then last, in that same discussion, what questions do you have? What do you wonder about? What does this make you think of? Okay, so fill out the Google form, look at the data, and do the discussion. What do you notice and what do you wonder? As always, if you have questions, send me an email. Thank you.